Good morning, everybody, or good mid-afternoon, early afternoon, if that's where you are. For me, I remember back in the day, I had two different reports coming out of two different systems that I needed to put together and do a bunch of analysis on, and I made it work. And I was super proud of myself. I was like, oh yeah, I did this, and I made a VLOOKUP so that it put the data together and did this, and then it made a pivot table and put it together and made this awesome chart and made this report. And it took me a little while to do, but I mean, otherwise, there was no way to do it. And so every month I did that. The second month, I was super proud of myself. And I was like, hey, Tom, take a look at this, because Tom was the guy who I knew who was best at Excel. And he said, wow, that's fabulous. And I felt great. And he said, do you want to learn a cool trick? And I said, sure. And he proceeded how to show me with a couple of clicks and wizzy Excel things how I could make this happen every month in literally 30 seconds by hitting a button. And boom, it put it all together. And I was like, I thought I was pretty good at Excel, right? And I think that lots of us have had that experience where we thought we were good and we were there, and then that whole next level was available to us. Gravity Learning does workshops in soft skills, people skills and management skills, things like emotional intelligence and project management for non-project managers and time management, which, whew, man, that makes a difference. And in software like Excel and SharePoint and data analysis and data visualization. And Tom Vorvis is the master of that stuff. He is a fantastic teacher. He's been a mentor to me in my life, and I'm pleased to call him my friends. I feel thankful and lucky for myself and for you to get to watch Tom Vorvis do his thing for the next 30 minutes. So without further ado, Tom, it's all you.
Wow, now I'm nervous. That was amazing. Thank you for that introduction, David. I can't wait to show you around. We have less than a half an hour to show you some really great tips and tricks, mainly for those of you who are already good with Excel. So you're probably thinking, Tom, what in the world are you going to show me? I'm so good at Excel. I use it every single day. Well, I'm hoping that I've got some really great, amazing tips and tricks to share with you. So I'm going to dive right in and share my screen. And we're going to talk about, first of all, Microsoft Excel and what it can do for us. So let's go ahead and share the screen and take a look at some of our topics that we're going to go through. Now, some of the topics we're going to go through, of course, are what to watch for in this webinar. Keyboard shortcuts. Everybody loves keyboard shortcuts. Even the most advanced users can learn a new keyboard shortcut. And I'm going to throw those in spitter spatter today during the session, just to keep your interest. And then functions, a couple of functions we're going to introduce you to. A brand new function, well, relatively brand new. It's a little over a year old. And also we'll discuss a function that I think you'll all enjoy when it comes to working with filtered lists. You're going to love it. Interacting with your sheet, and you and your colleagues are going to love this one, and lots of great stuff. Then finally, a special bonus, Power Query. Time permitting, I'd like to show you Power Query. Most people don't realize that Power Query can actually eliminate the need for so many different types of macros and data cleanup. So this is where we're going to go. So why don't we dive right in and get familiar with our Excel spreadsheet we're going to be using. This one here, and by the way, this sheet will be available too if you'd like after the session. We'll make sure we get it out to you if you'd like. So let's start with just a couple of keyboard shortcuts. I'm going to begin with a keyboard shortcut that very few people know about, but you all know about Control and the Alt keys, how they alter what you do. Well, let's take a look at your keyboard right now. No doubt you're in front of a computer. There's the page up and down keys. Everybody knows what page up and down does. So if I were on this spreadsheet and I hit my page down key, it'll go down exactly one screen page. Take a look over on the left-hand side. Rows 1 through 18 are showing right now. If I hit my page down, now I see 19 through 36 or so. If you hold down your Alt key, it'll alter the page up and down key and turn it into a page right and left key. I'm going to hold down my Alt key and hit page down right now. And notice I'm looking at A through L. Now I'm looking at M through V. And you're like, what? How much time would that have saved you? Just knowing that the Alt page up and down will move you through your spreadsheet left and right. There's also another page up and down keystroke if you combine it with the control key. Look at the lower left corner of my screen. Lower left corner of my screen, you see that the tabs are displayed down there. I've got what, 6 tabs, 5 tabs, 6 tabs. Control page down and control page up will move you through your sheets. So we've just learned 3 uses of the page up and down in a matter of 2 minutes. The standard page up and down, page left and right with the Alt key, and then moving through your sheets with the control key. Now I'd like you all to join me in the chat. If you can find your chat, it'd be really great. I'd like you all to join me in chat. And then when I show you something today, I'd like to hear from you, whether it was new, N-E-W, or you already knew it, K-N-E-W. So just put an N or a K in the chat, and I'd love to hear. So do it right now if you don't mind. This way, I'll not only see what we're doing here and how it's sinking in, we'll also see how much you already knew. So David already knew that, of course. Thank you. New and new. Thank you, Emroy. Appreciate it. So let's move on and keep on typing. We're going to love to hear from you. Let me show you one more keystroke before we get into the meat. Oftentimes, we need to jump a long distance on our spreadsheet. Scrolling might not be the most efficient way to get there. So the F5 function key will always pop up the go-to window, and you can type in any address you want. Like, for instance, if I type in Z500 and hit enter, boom, I'm on cell Z500, just like that. So the F5 function key is looking for an address. You hit the enter key and it takes you right there. Keep up the new, the N and the K, or the new and the new. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you. So great stuff on navigating. There's more to come with the keyboard shortcuts, but why don't we take a quick trip over to our first function? I'd like to share with you our first function. It's going to be a function that's not new probably to all of you, but hopefully will give you a chance to look at a great way of utilizing it. So I'm going to slide over here to my food sales sheet. And I'd like you to notice on the food sales sheet that I've got this nice little list, and I'm interested in sharing with you a subtotal feature. Subtotal, it's a great little aggregate function. Let's start by zooming in a little bit so you can see it better. I want you to be able to see it a little better there. Now that we're zoomed in, let's apply a filter. We'll go to data and we'll choose filter, and you'll notice how my filter arrows have shown up, and I can apply a filter by clicking on one of these drop-down arrows. We all know that. So let's go ahead and apply a quick summary now. Let's do a sum of all of the quantities from G top all the way to G bottom. There we are. Let's see what we have. So we've got a nice sum. And the problem with this lovely sum of G6 through G249 is that when we filter, let me say, show me all my carrots. When we filter, the sum doesn't change. So we all say, well, Tom, just go use a pivot table. That'll take care of it. Well, of course, that'll take care of it. But maybe we want to look at the sheet in this perspective and see the sum of the filtered items. You might be also saying, Tom, we'll just highlight it. I don't want to. I don't want to take the time to select it all and then look down here for a total. I want my formula to do it for me. So let's remove that filter. And let's learn this new function. Equals subtotal. Yes, there's a function called subtotal. And you'll notice when you open up the parenthesis, there are 2 arguments to the subtotal function. Which function do you want to utilize? They all are numbered. So if I'm looking for sum, you'll see here that the sum function is function number 9 in this function called subtotal. So I'll type in a 9 and then a comma, and now I'll put in my cell range. And again, I could just type it, but I'm lazy, so I'm just going to select it. If it were a little longer, I'd probably just type it in. So now that we've got the range selected, we close the parenthesis. Let's take a look. We should get the exact same value, 15,442. Exactly right. Now, let's go look at our carrots. Ready? Well, would you look at that? The subtotal function is only totaling the visible cells. What? There's a great one right there for you. Yeah, wow, right? So what a great tool, and it's so simple too. And it's not just for summing. Remember, the different functions are available based on a numeric value. all the aggregates that you're probably interested in using. Average, count, count A, and there, and so forth and so on. Pretty slick, right? All right, very good. Well, we're going to move right along. Oftentimes we've needed to use a function called VLOOKUP. Now, VLOOKUP, great tool. It's been around for forever. V stands for victory. No, I'm kidding. It's VLOOKUP stands for vertical lookup. So a vertical lookup would allow us to, say, for instance, look here at Boston, come all the way over here, find Boston, and return the manager's name back to where it belongs here. That's what VLOOKUP does. But if you've used VLOOKUP before, you'll say, Tom, you can't use VLOOKUP right now because VLOOKUP can only look from the lookup column, Boston in this case, to the right. VLOOKUP does not know how to look to the left. So what do we use? Well, you're all thinking, all right, Tom, you're going to show us index match. We already know that one. Index match, two functions combined together, are great, but they're a little bit hard to teach someone how to use, and they're actually a little hard to remember. So we have this new function called XLookup. XLookup, never heard of it. It's brand new. It was introduced in January of 2020, I believe. So it's a little over a year old, maybe a year and a half old. So XLookup is great because it just tells you exactly what you need to do without some ambiguous wording. When my lookup value is right there, D6, my lookup array is right, no, not here, it's here. And I want to make sure that stays put. So I'm going to hit my F4 function key to put the absolute dollar signs around it. Yes, F4 is for dollar signs, the absolute. Then it says, what do you want to return? Well, I would like to return this array. I'll hit F4 to put the dollar signs on that. And then it says, if you don't find it, what do you want to say if you don't find it? Maybe we can say something like NA. And then we have a match mode. I want an exact match. And you can look into the search mode later on your own. I'll hit the enter key. Now all of a sudden, boom, I see Sarah here. And if I copy that formula down with a double click, there's my XLookup. I did not have to rearrange my list to accommodate VLOOKUP, nor did I have to remember how to use index match. What? Again, so cool. So now we know how to use XLookup and Subtotal. What a great set of tools. I'm glad some of you are finding these to be new. They're so simple, but how would you know if you didn't have someone like myself to share it with you? You can't go out to Google and say, show me something new. You have to go out to Google and say, show me how to use XLookup. And you can't type in XLookup if you didn't know it existed. Thanks for being here and let me show you how to do this. Now, I'd like to share with you another really slick feature called conditional formatting. Now, a lot of people use conditional formatting. Let's use this sheet. I like this sheet here for conditional formatting. I'm going to go ahead and select this whole range with a shift control down and a shift control right. Now that I've got the whole range selected, I'm going to apply some conditional formatting. You might be thinking, Tom, conditional formatting on the whole thing? Yes, let's do some conditional formatting. We'll choose home, conditional formatting, and we're going to do a new rule. And the new rule is going to be based on a formula. Instead of the built-in rules, let's base it on a formula. My goal right now is to highlight every row that has a certain incident type, as you can see on column D. So I'm going to say, all right, equals, let's go with $D2. We're going to lock in the column, but keep the row relative with no dollar sign. And we're going to say that if that equals $M $1. That's it. We'll click on the format button first. I almost clicked on OK. I always do that. You've got to format it first. Let's put a nice little blue on that. Hit the OK. Hit the next OK. And we'll slide over here to M1 and we'll type in a cut. Well, would you look at that? Let's change that to an accident, a burn. Well, would you look at that? How slick. So we've got some amazing conditional formatting, and all you really need to do is either sign up for our future webinars and our future classes, and we of course would love to work with you, or you can go to Google and type in conditional formatting examples. Some amazing examples on conditional formatting. Back to the chat, everybody. I see some N's coming in. There's some great things you can do with conditional formatting. And when you combine them with formulas, boom, you get some amazing stuff. Let's do one more conditional format. I can't pass this one up. This was one of my favorite conditional formats to share with everybody. I'm going to select this range here. Shift Control down. We'll go up to conditional formatting. I'm going to put a highlighting rule, greater than. Let's say greater than 800. We're going to make that green. Let's leave it selected. We'll go back to the conditional formatting, do another highlighting rule, less than, and we'll make anything less than 400, we'll make that red. Beautiful. So now I've got a static conditional format. 800, 400. I'd like to make it more dynamic. So let's make it more dynamic. We'll do the high over here. Let's do the low right there. Let's put in a 750 and then a 500. We'll reselect the range. Well, we don't actually have to reselect the range. There's a cool conditional formatting feature called Manage Rules. You click on the drop-down arrow and say, show me all the rules on this worksheet. There they are. I don't have to select the range anymore. Let's click on this rule and edit it. We're going to change it from less than to less than or equal to. And we're going to change it from 400 to look at this cell right here. Ah, beautiful. Let's go ahead and apply the same type of thing to this rule. We'll edit this rule. We'll say greater than or equal to. And instead of being a static 800, let's tell it to look at this cell instead. Now we have a dynamic conditional formatting. Let's change this to 200. Let's change this down to 500. Again, there it is. What? Pretty darn cool, right? And thank you for the N's and the K's, everybody. Super great. Love it. Now notice I have my developer tab selected up here. My developer tab, you might think, I don't have a developer tab. I'm jealous. Well, if you're jealous of my developer tab, just go to the File tab, choose Options, go to Customize Ribbon, and turn on your developer tab. Everybody's got a developer tab if you just want one. So with the developer tab showing, I'd like to change my input of these two values to be a bit more dynamic. We're going to use a form control. Let's go with the scroll bar. I'll click and drag with my little scroll bar here. Let's slide that up there, make it a little more narrow. We'll right click on that scroll bar and we'll assign a format control. We'll go to format control right below assign. And let's say minimum value is 0. Let's make the maximum value 1500. We'll also link it to this cell. Ah, that was great. Let's do it one more time. We'll go to Insert, Scroll Bar. Let's make this one nice and big and chunky because it's easier to grab, easier to scroll. Let's go to Format Control. Let's make this from 0 to 1500 as well. We'll link it to this cell. Now what we have, and your coworkers, what they have, is some interactive work with their conditional formatting. So you can make a dashboard for your team, for your boss, for your client. So it makes it really easy for you to recognize where things are on the spreadsheet. Again, what? That's pretty slick. Yes, it is so cool. Thank you for that, David. Well, that's really cool. So we have great ways to do input. And if you want to look back at your insert button, the top row of insert buttons are for form controls, which I just shared with you. And the bottom ones are for those of you who are a little more fancy pants and you write Visual Basic code. Moving on, we don't have a whole lot of time here. I'd like to share with you another great tool. Let's go over here to the hockey players. I got something for everybody in this spreadsheet. We're going to do some concatenation. Let's zoom in so you can see it better. The word concatenation, it just basically means adding two fields or two values together, not in a mathematical way, but in a sequence. So I'd like to bring the full name over. So I'd like to have Megan Augusta right there. And oh, you're thinking, oh, he's going to show me the concatenation formula. Well, no, I'm not. I'm going to show you a shortcut. It's the Shift 7. Look at your keyboard right now. What's on the Shift 7? The Shift 7 is the and sign. So I'm going to go D2 and let's concatenate a nice space in there and E2. Beautiful. There's our concatenation. Let's scroll that, throw that down to the bottom with a double click. Boom, that was done. Isn't that great? So concatenation via a formula. There's other ways to do it. And there's also the new magical flash fill. but this is a great formula for you to quickly concatenate 2 values, 3 values, or more together, just with the and sign on Shift 7. Fun stuff, right? Moving right along, I've got 4 more things to share with you that I'm really excited about. Named ranges. Named ranges, if you watch the videos leading up to this webinar, I talked about named ranges and how powerful they can be. Let's go over here to our sales orders. And we'll take a look at, you know what, I just navigated over the sales orders with my mouse. Let's go over a keyboard shortcut. Well, not the keyboard shortcut of control page up and down. Let's use a mouse keyboard shortcut. Wait a minute. A mouse shortcut. I'm going to take my mouse to the lower left corner of the screen where the little 2 arrows are. And we're familiar with these, right? Where we switch between our sheets. Have you ever worked with a workbook that's got so many sheets that you can't see them all? And you're scrolling back and forth all the time? Go to the chat and let me know. Do you appreciate that? Yep. Work with so many sheets. David, thank you. Steve says yes. Did you know the little shortcut down here, friends? All you've got to do is right click on these little navigation arrows. When you right click, a window pops up and says, hey, Tom, here's the sheets. Which one do you want to go to? And you can go to a sheet by name. You don't have to scroll there. You don't have to use those little arrows and go next, 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 next. You just go and you're there with a nice right click. Click on the sheet and you're in. Beautiful. So I've got this total here. Let's go with the units. We haven't tinkered with the units column yet. If I were to build a formula that says I want the total of units, I would build something that looked like this, equals the sum of, let's see, that would be F7 through with a colon, whatever the last cell was. What is the last cell? 49, F7 through F49. And there's the sum of my units. Now, if I'm on another sheet and I need that sum of units, I'd have to type in equals the sum of sales orders 43 exclamation point. What was it again? F6 to, I don't remember. Have you ever had that experience? You just don't remember the range. Well, you don't have to anymore. All you need to do now is select the range and find your way up to this upper left corner box. Some people call it the navigation box, but it's got a name. Well, this little box is called, ta-da, the name box. If I click on the name box and I type in the name of this, let's call it units. I hit the enter key. Now this column, this cell range is now got a name. In fact, it's got 2 names. Units, and then F7 through F49. So I don't have to worry about that anymore, ever again. I can go to any sheet, anywhere, at any time, click and type in equals the sum of, oh, what did I call it? I called it units. I don't remember what I called it. You can hit the F3 function key. It's going to show you all your named ranges. You can choose units, hit OK, close the parenthesis and hit enter. There it is. So now we have a formula that speaks to us. It's a formula that's called a natural language formula. Natural language. There's the sum of units based on a named range. Very cool. Named ranges are quite awesome. Let's look at another feature that I know you signed up for while you're here. You want to learn about custom views. Custom views are a great way to save you and your team a lot of time. I'd love to go into the math about saving time, but let's say there's 50 members of your team, and what you learned in this session, you shared it with all of them, they all save 1 minute a day. 1 minute a day, 50 members, that's 50 minutes. That's almost an hour saved. This really adds up, especially if you share this with others. I'm going to select a range here and hide these columns. Wait a minute, before I hide the columns, I might want to unhide them later on. So I'm going to do something special. I'm going to go up to the view menu and choose custom views. Now, if your custom views button is grayed out, that's because you have tables somewhere in your workbook. Custom views hate tables. So you have to turn those off if you want to use this feature. I'll click on custom views. I'll start a new view by clicking add. And let's call this the full view. Now I've got a full view view. Let's go ahead and hide these columns. And we're going to actually hide these columns as well. Now I've got a new view. I'll create a new view by clicking custom views and add. Let's call it the short view. You can call it whatever we want. And yes, I can create as many views as I want. So now I don't have to unhide the columns and then rehide them again, ever again. I just go to custom views, select my full view and show it. There it is. I go to custom views, select my short view and show it. I can create a view called my presentation view. I can create a view called the public view or the private view or the management view. Isn't that great? What a time saver the custom views are. I've got two more topics I want to share with you. One is going to require me to show you how to use tables, and then two, a very brief overview of Power Query. I know I've only got 4 minutes left, but we're going to make it happen. Here, I'm going to format this as a table. You can pick whatever lovely format you want. Now that I formatted as a table, Excel says that's a database now. Now I can go up to my insert menu and choose to insert a slicer, and I can choose any of these slicers for quick and easy filtering. So I got these wonderful slicers here, and I can format them to make them look nicer and prettier, and colors. You can look into that later. Let's go ahead and make this 2 columns. How cool. I can now filter based on the slicer selections. Yeah, you're going to want to watch this video again. Watch for a video update, and you'll a replay, and you'll be able to get this video and watch it again. Finally, one last thing I want to share with you. Just recently learned slicers. Yeah, they're great. Everybody loves slicers, especially when you need to do some interactive presentations. Why don't we take a look at the last feature I want to share with you? It's going to take me about 2 minutes to go through it. And to help you with it, I need to show you my files. I've got one called Messy Data and Messy Data 1. Let's go to Messy Data. We'll take a look at it real quickly. Messy Data, before I can do anything with this data, I need to clean it up. It's got blank rows, it's got a blank column. It won't work well for a pivot table, we know that. And I'm going to be analyzing it every single week. Not this particular file. I'm going to be analyzing a new file every single week, but it has the same messy structure. So let me just recap. Every week you get this download from a CSV file, and it's a mess. And every week you have to clean it up, and then you can analyze it. What if it's the same structural mess every time? We can use this wonderful new feature called Power Pivot. So here in this blank new Excel file, I'm going to say get data from a file, from a workbook. I'll go out to this workbook, the messy data I just shared with you. It's going to be found right here on my desktop, underneath Gravity, Sample Data, Messy Data. In it comes. Now, Power Query just launched. Power Query is a special program that's been added on to Microsoft Excel. And when I click on Transform Data, it's going to load this data into Power Query, where I can now do some transformations, data transformations. And in this case, I'm just going to show you cleaning up your data transformations. Watch over here on the left-hand side for your applied steps. First of all, removing rows. I'm going to remove all my blank rows. Second of all, I'm going to remove my top row. It's a mess. We'll tell it to remove 1 row at the top. Next, I'll remove this column. Finally, I'm going to promote my headers, check my data types, and look at this. All of this was just recorded for me. So now I'll hit close and load on the upper left corner, and you'll notice that data will load right into my spreadsheet, all cleaned up perfectly. Amazing, right? So next time I get another sheet, all I have to do is go to my query with a double click. Click on the, you're gonna love this. Click on the source. I know some of you are just salivating right now. This could have saved me so much time. I'll click on the source. And remember, my other file was called Messy Data 1. I'll just put a 1 in there. And sure enough, that new data will come in, get cleaned up automatically. And notice the top row here, I changed it to, oh my God, can you believe this? Yes. So everybody, that was fun. And I enjoyed showing you around Microsoft Excel. for people who are already good at Excel. Stick around if you have any questions or any thoughts. But remember, next week we've got the magic of time management. That's our webinar. The wonderful David Lieberman will be presenting this. And also, remember, Gravity Learning, we're here to prove that special things can be done. Our training is designed to be measured and effective from the beginning through the middle and at the end. And we can do something meaningful together as well. And I'm just so pleased that you all came to join me with this. So I'm going to stick around for a little bit. David will be with me as well. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have and just geek talk about Excel. I am here for you. Have a great day and thanks again.